My name is Rick Petherbridge, and I'm here to talk tennis. And the topic today is Olympic doubles. So we're going to take a look at both the men's doubles and the women's doubles, and we'll preview them and give you our favorites. And before we start, I just want to say one of the things that makes the Olympics truly special from a doubles perspective is that you have a lot of players that don't normally play doubles, playing doubles, right? Because they want a shot at that gold medal. And so what happens is, which is different from, Grand Slam events or other tournaments, is that you really get three different types of doubles pairings, right? So you get the doubles specialists, the 1, 2, 3 ranked doubles teams in the world. But you also get what I call two singles players, right? So you can get two top 10 singles players that just say, hey, we don't normally play doubles, but let's give it a shot. I'd love to have a gold medal in my trophy cabinet. And so this is something that we don't normally see at other Grand Slam or tennis events. And then the third type of double pairing that we also don't normally see is you get a top 10 ranked singles player who then finds a doubles specialist and decides to make that pairing. And I'm going to call that sort of a hybrid pairing. Anyway, that makes the Olympics doubles really interesting because, like I said, you get to see players that don't normally play together, play doubles together. And then also, in terms of making picks about favorites and predictions, you have to really understand that you can be one of the top 5 singles players in the world, and it doesn't make you necessarily one of the best doubles players in the world, right? So it also requires, that you're able to sort of see which singles players' skills will translate really well to doubles and which won't. And let me give one specific example that I think is really interesting. So, I think we can all agree that the top 3 men's singles players over the last 10 years have been Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. And Federer is a great doubles player. And he won the Olympic gold playing with Wawrinka in 2008. Nadal is also a very talented doubles player, and he won Olympic gold playing with Mark Lopez, who's a doubles specialist, in 2016. But Djokovic has never won a doubles gold, and I think anyone who's watched him play, I've seen him play doubles at the BNP Paribas a couple of times, can just see he just doesn't have the doubles talent that a Federer has, or even a Nadal has. So just because you're an awesome singles player, and nobody can question that Djokovic isn't an awesome singles player, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good doubles player. And so this is something that, in terms of making predictions, you have to really look and see, do the singles skills that this player has, the tennis skills, will they necessarily translate to doubles or not? Okay, so let's move on. We're going to now make our predictions about the men's doubles in the Olympics in Japan. And I'm going to start off with what I'm going to call is the doubles specialist predictions, right? Because there are a number of really talented doubles specialist teams in the draw. And of course, my favorite would be the Pavic and Medic. And of course, they just won Wimbledon. They're also the #1 ranked men's doubles team. And if you were looking just from the point of view of doubles specialist, I think you would have to say that they're the favorite. Now, having said that, I don't necessarily think they're the favorite at the Olympics. And that's because there's these other two groups of pairings, the hybrid pairings and the two singles pairings. And we've seen from past Olympics that sometimes those types of pairings are able to beat the best doubles team in the world. First of all, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ted, and ask you to look at the draw and make your pick as to what we call the doubles specialist pairings. I've cherry picked Medic and Pavic, and of course they're the #1 doubles team. But looking through the draw, what other doubles specialist teams do you think have a real shot at winning Olympic gold?
The second obvious one is Mahut and Hebert. Those guys, you know, they're just racking up the trophies together. There's another really good one too out of Colombia, Cabal and Farah. Those guys are just fat. You know, those guys really play well together as well. So those are the traditional ones. There's a couple of exciting ones too. They're teamed up, but we can talk about that later.
And I agree with Ted, and also so do the people that are making the seedings, right? Because as it turns out, Medic and Pavic are seeded 1, right? And Mahut and Hebert are seeded 2. And then seeded 3 is Cabal and Farah, right? And of course that makes sense. Those are the top 3 doubles teams in the world so far this year. But like I said, I don't think that necessarily means that one of those 3 wins Olympic gold. So let's move on to what I call the second type of pairing. And these are when you put 2 really talented singles players together. And of course, they haven't played doubles much before. Maybe they played, you know, a few matches in the past. You know, it'll be sort of speculating how well are those singles skills or their tennis skills that they use in singles going to translate to doubles. And so let's take a look, and I'm going to go through what I call what I think are the best pairings involving 2 really talented singles, right? And so the first one I'm going to look at is Medvedev, who's ranked 2 in the world in singles, and he's playing with Karatsev, who's ranked 24 in the world in singles, and who came out of nowhere this year to have great results. So they're clearly 2 really strong singles players. And then the issue is how well do their singles or their tennis skills translate to the doubles court? And then what kind of chemistry are they going to have, right? You know, that's a really interesting question. I mean, Medvedev is a really talented player, but he's got a really unusual style, right? So one of the things that you notice immediately with him is he returns serve like Nadal, right? I mean, his back is touching, you know, the stands, right? He uses every foot, right? And that's not at all traditional doubles play, right? You normally see, you know, doubles returners standing close to the baseline, right? And, you know, a lot of times they're charging to get up to the net. So one of the interesting things is how well Medvedev, given his style of returning so far behind the baseline, how well he can play doubles.
There's the reason why that's a disadvantage, because if you have a good net man, he's going to cherry pick all day long, and your partner at the net's going to hate you.
Right, and if that net player poaches and drops the ball, there's no way, you know, someone who's 15 feet behind the baseline is going to get up to the net to get that poach volley. But we know that Nadal won gold in 2016, so we know that it's possible, right? It takes a really solid chemistry between players, and you figure out how to cover that. But that's not the only pairing of singles players, right? The other pairing of really talented players is Rublev, who's 7 in the world, and he's playing with Khachanov, who's 25 in the world. And again, those are really talented singles players. But again, I would say that they don't necessarily have the best, that their games don't necessarily translate that well to doubles, right? So it'll be really interesting to see how they compete, right, against these doubles specialists, and whether these doubles specialists are able to exploit the weaknesses in their game in trying to convert from singles to doubles. All right, so that's my take. I would say that in terms of the pairing of two singles players, I would put Medvedev and Karatsev as the #1 team in that regard. And then I would put Rublev and Khachanov as the other. Ted, how do you look at the draw and see some of these singles players? And do you see any of these singles players that you think can be a big threat in the doubles?
I totally agree with Medvedev. I mean, with the Rublev and Karen Khachanov playing together. Those I've actually seen them play doubles together, and those guys can end points quickly. And that was going to be one of my underdog picks. And it's too bad that Dodig and Cilic will play them in I think the second round, because that's another team. Because Dodig is an outstanding doubles player. He's one of the best in the world, and Cilic has got a big serve and good return. So that's going to be a really good, like you said, singles players that can translate into the doubles team. So I really like the Cilic Dodig matchup as well.
The other pairing that stands out in terms of talented singles players to me is from Germany. You've got Zverev, who's ranked 5 in the world, and he's playing with Struff, who I think is in the low 40s in the world. Again, I don't necessarily think Zverev is someone who has great doubles skills, but how do you see that pairing holding up?
But you're right about Zverev, because again, when you loop the ball from the baseline, you give the net man all day long to cherry pick you, and then after a while, you as the guy who's hitting the ground strokes, you have to guess where he's going to go, and then he's in your head, and then you've already lost the match. Another good one is Chardet and Monfils.
We've gone through the men's draw, and we've sort of talked about these different styles of teams. I'm going to go out on the limb, and I'm going to say that the doubles specialist team is going to come through in Japan. And I'm picking Pavic and Medic to be the winners of gold. How do you see this playing out, Ted?
I kind of like the outside long shots. And to me, the outside long shot is going to be either the Rublev, Khachanov, or the Cilic, Dodig. I just love those, the way their games complement with one another. And like I said, they're all just fantastic double players, and this is so much fun. I learned so much when I watched them play.